about detoxification. I'm sorry that we're slightly late on the live. I was having an issue with my camera. So I'm going to turn on the slides. So detoxification is a subject that many people are interested in the context of long COVID, because a lot of people talk about this idea of detoxing the spike protein and viral persistence as one example. But what I would like to do in this presentation is just summarize detoxification as a mechanism, the different organs that are involved and how it works, because often people can jump to some kind of complex detoxification protocols before the foundations of detoxification are really there. So we're going to talk about it more from a foundational perspective. So the organs involved, or the systems involved in detoxification, are the cardiovascular system, the digestive system, the lymphatic system, urinary system, skin, and respiratory system. And each system, obviously comes with its own set of complexities and potential issues that can arise. So the cardiovascular system, the blood links every organ in the body. It flows through all tissues, delivering oxygen and critical nutrients to the cells. It also shuttles communication molecules around the body, cleanses, detoxes sites such as liver, and provides a freeway system for the immune system. So, when we talk about detoxification in the context of long COVID, something that many people are experiencing is microclotting. And this is, of course, an issue because of all these reasons. So if you understand the mechanism and what the cardiovascular system is actually doing, and you imagine obstructions to that in the form of microclotting, this is quite problematic. So of course, this is something that we want to resolve. And this is why we have, specific testing for microclotting and also specific protocols to address it. So the next system, the lymphatic system, is vital. So the lymph is a vital fluid in terms of its role in detoxification. Lymph, which is essentially interstitial fluid, so that's basically the fluid between cells, flows through lymph nodes where bacteria, viruses, and organic materials are filtered out. So in a way, the lymph acts as a pre-filter for the liver to prevent clogging and to prevent liver overload. So it's almost like the filter before the filter, which is the liver. And the thing to remember about the lymphatic system is that it actually doesn't have its own pump. So the lymphatic system requires us to move, and it's propelled by the action of nearby skeletal muscles and the movement of the lungs, contraction of smooth muscle fibers, and therefore movement is really critical to enable the lymph system to work well. Lymph flows through the system at a slower rate compared to blood, so 3 liters a day versus 5 liters a minute, which is the rate of flow of blood. So this is why activities such as rebounding on these small trampolines, dry brushing, you can see from the top photo, and also jump rope. So all of these things help to stimulate the lymph system and therefore the immune system. And there are good ways to aid in detoxification. So the digestive system, so if anyone remembers my live when I talked about mechanisms of long COVID, one driving mechanism is microbiome disruption. So this is a really common driving factor. And the digestive system is therefore affected by microbiome disruption. And the digestive system is really key when it comes to detoxification, because not only does it remove waste, but it also scans the food for potential invaders. It detoxifies poorly digested, fermented toxins. It filters food and intestinal bacteria. And of course, it eliminates. So we really want our digestive system to be optimized if we're going to do, proper detoxification. So the intestines, liver, and gallbladder, of course, are all important for detoxification. And the intestines also provide a physical barrier to stop foreign molecules entering the body. So we want to make sure digestion is optimized in all the ways that we've spoken about in previous lives. So the normal detoxification process for digestion is dependent on two things. So the integrity of the GI membrane, and this is how, things like GI stool maps can determine something like leaky gut, and if you have a compromised GI membrane, and the maintenance of precise bacteria and chemical environment. So an imbalance of the intestinal flora can injure intestinal walls and basically allow undigested food to leak into the bloodstream. And this is an issue because not only does that impair detoxification, but it also can trigger autoimmunity. So the next system is, oh, wait, no, so we've covered all the systems. Okay, so those are the main systems of detoxification. Yeah, so some foundational things to talk about when it comes to addressing detoxification. So the first one is, of course, diet. So too much food or too little food. Eating food that's basically devoid of nutrients or even nutrient draining, like hyper-processed food, can impair detoxification. And of course, in order to detox, we need all of the micro and macronutrients in their proper ratios and in their proper amounts in order to actually do the process. So this is why diet is really important. Digestion, as I said, you know, detoxification pathways can be really clogged by improper digestion. Specific amino acids play important roles in the functioning of specific detoxification pathways. Um, Poor fat digestion clogs the lymph and therefore the liver. So fat digestion is dependent on bile, which is released from the gallbladder. And the type of fat and the quality of fat that we have will determine the quality of the bile that's produced and therefore the optimization of fat digestion. So blood sugar regulation, elevated cortisol and general blood sugar imbalance will stress the liver because the liver is implicated in the production of insulin and the storage of sugar. Blood sugar imbalances also deplete B vitamins, which are much needed for liver enzyme function and neurotransmitter synthesis. B2 is needed for phase 1 and phase 2. So there are different, this is a more technical thing, but there are different phases of detoxification, phase 1 and phase 2, and they require different cofactors, and different nutrients are needed to basically facilitate those detoxification pathways. So chronically high blood sugar creates a buildup of free radicals and a general catabolic state, which basically robs the nutrients needed to detoxify. So I think I did a live also about blood sugar balance. So also refer to that for optimizing blood sugar. So fat tissue helps the body to store difficult to remove toxic waste. This is actually one reason why excessive weight loss or really quick weight loss can make people sick, because often heavy metals, toxins of different kinds are actually stored in fat. And if you start to lose weight really quickly without opening your detoxification pathways, then those toxins can just be released into the body and cause havoc, and they have nowhere to go. And that can actually be more damaging than having them stored in the fat. So this is why all of these things that we're talking about, digestion, blood sugar management, diet, making sure your lymph is working well with all of these things, making sure your circulation with microclotting and these kind of things, respiration, breathing, before you start any kind of detoxification protocol, you want to make sure that the toxins actually have a way to exit. It's not just about releasing them, but also allowing them to leave the body. So this is important to bear in mind. The liver metabolizes fat into their usable forms. Proper ingestion and digestion of fats causes less liver stress. And bile, as I said, is basically built of healthy fat. And that's important in the digestion of fats. So fats are pretty important when it comes to detoxification. So minerals. So minerals are, I would say magnesium is kind of the main detoxification mineral. And toxins actually deplete magnesium, which can lead to deficiencies of enzymes which are necessary for detoxification. Certain minerals also help to keep heavy metals from collecting in the tissue. Minerals also help to buffer the acidity of the blood that's created by toxins. So here, molybdenum and manganese activate metabolic and detox enzymes. So minerals are really important. I would say magnesium is really the master mineral when it comes to detoxification. And almost everyone should be supplementing magnesium because it's almost impossible to get the required daily magnesium from food, because unfortunately our soils are really depleted. And this means that the vegetables that grow on the soil are also depleted in certain nutrients, but especially magnesium is affected by this. And it's really, really difficult, if not impossible, to get the magnesium that you need just from food. So magnesium is one of those supplements that really everyone should be taking. So hydration, we must keep properly hydrated to keep the body flushing appropriately, moving bowels and urine. Perspiring, so sweating is of course a great way for detoxification to happen. And perspiring really requires us to be properly hydrated. Proper hydration also helps keep lung tissue moist so that we can breathe. And it also keeps the blood viscous and fluid so that toxic minerals can be delivered to the lymph and the liver. So this is an example of the interconnection of the different detoxification systems. So here are some examples of herbs that detoxify the body naturally. I would say that it's important to kind of understand what I've spoken about in terms of which detoxification systems there are. So which ones exist and which ones are specifically stunted in your specific case. So is it microclotting? Is it that your digestion is really impaired? Is it that you're not moving at all and your lymph system is not working? Because each herb has a mechanism to help a certain system. So it's a good idea to be more targeted in your approach rather than just kind of randomly take detoxification herbs. Although, of course, these herbs will always be useful for anyone. But it's good to kind of be aware of what your specific issue is and then which herb can be maybe useful for that, because they all have specific properties. So there are many cultural traditions of detoxification. Yeah, detoxification has really been around in Ayurveda, traditional medicines of India, and TCM. Usually they involve things like therapeutic vomiting, enemas, bloodletting, the nasal rinses, sweat lodge is another one, sometimes smudge sticks. There are many different cultures that kind of integrate detoxification. So it's definitely interesting to explore how that has been done. There's always a lot to learn from ancient wisdom, and how we've managed to move away, why we've moved away from these, and which things are still integrated and relevant in different ways. So to see the rest of the presentation, that is available on the Phoenix Live, and I talk a little bit more about our specific long COVID protocol and the different, of course, we in our long COVID protocol, we recommend specific detoxification supplements, and why we recommend them for detoxing the spike protein and for other reasons. So I talk a little bit more about that in the Phoenix Learn happens every Tuesday. So for now, I'm going to see if there are any questions about detoxification. Okay, so with long COVID, I tend to overwash my hands, sanitize, wash after touching food delivery, groceries, sanitize phones daily. At what point is this excessive? Most people don't do this and say it's good to build up the immune system. So I guess I would ask, why with long COVID specifically are you sanitizing more? Is that because you're under the impression that your immune system is impaired and therefore needs to be protected? I'm not sure exactly if that is the thought process. Yeah, I would say it's not necessary to do extra hand sanitizing because we have long COVID, and there are downsides to sanitizing. Even just drying your skin and things being overly sterile and is never really the answer. Actually, there's some interesting research. Of course, it's different if you live in the city, because there's so many different bacteria and viruses and different things around. But there's interesting research about the immune system of children who grow up on farms or in rural areas, because they're exposed to so many more microbes in the soil and with animals and just touching general plant material. And generally, the immune system of children who grew up in those environments are much stronger because it's a less sterile environment. And one of the main kind of probiotics that we're actually missing in the modern day are what's called spore-based probiotics. And those probiotics are from soil. So lactobacillus, those are more the probiotics that you imagine in things like yogurt. And the spore-based probiotics are from soil. And yeah, I mean, you can actually buy a spore-based probiotic, and those probiotics are actually more resilient to stomach acid and enzymes, so they can travel down into the large intestine. So people usually take spore-based probiotics when they have more issues with the large intestine. So yeah, I would say that over sanitizing is definitely not something that's necessary. Have you heard about craniosacral therapy? Yes, I have. I've never actually tried it, but I've heard people say that they found it really useful. And I think it's also useful for the nervous system. And since nervous system dysregulation or dysautonomy is one of the main driving factors of long COVID, I think that craniosacral therapy can be really great for that also, as well as detoxification. So what are the best forms of magnesium? So my favorite type of magnesium is magnesium L-threonate. And this magnesium is slightly more expensive than the others. But the reason why I like it is because I believe it's the only magnesium, or maybe one of a few, that can actually cross the blood-brain barrier. So magnesium L-threonate is best for things like cognition, mood, and sleep. And people actually in the group coaching who've tried it said that they do really notice a difference between using magnesium threonate for sleep and cognition, as opposed to using something like magnesium citrate. I can send a link about the other types of magnesium, because there are so many and they're all used for slightly different purposes. And some are not bioavailable at all, and some cause gut irritation and diarrhea. But they all have slightly different functions. So it's good to know what those are. But just saying about which is my favorite one, it would be magnesium threonate. Is there a time frame to detox the spike protein? I'm not sure really what you mean by time frame. If you mean how long should it take? Maybe that's what the person means. Yeah, I mean, I think when it comes to that, as we talked about in the whole presentation, you know, that there are so many systems of detoxification, and we need to optimize all of them because they're all interconnected. So we need to optimize all of them in order to detox properly. So it really just depends, you know, if you're not moving, if you have really terrible digestion, lots of gas and bloating and parasites or candida and not enough stomach acid, and you're taking PPIs, you know, there's just so many different things that can go wrong in the process of detoxification. So you really want to optimize each of those systems to just speed it up as much as possible. The best herb for moving lymph. um I don't think there are specific herbs for the lymph. I'd have to refer to my herbology book. um but usually the focus of herbs is on the liver. There are some circulatory herbs that help with the circulatory system, but usually it's related to liver detox and bile. And herbs are especially good for that. So things like dandelion, for example, and also milk thistle. They really trigger. They're almost like the bitter herbs. You can almost think of them as like a workout for the liver. Um, they work through the vagus nerve, and they really stimulate the liver and stimulate the bile to do their proper job. So that's really the main thing that detoxification herbs are known for. So I think that's it for questions. Yeah, great questions today. I will find the magnesium article. It's actually from a women's health blog, but it's still relevant to everyone because it's a really good summary of what the different types of magnesium do. And I'll share that in the comments. And yeah, thank you everyone for listening today. And sorry about the delay in starting. Have an issue with my camera. And yeah, if anyone has more questions, you can comment and I can check and review the comments. But otherwise, thank you. Oh, Monica has just put up the QR code, so you can check out the QR code. We're going to start a new Phoenix protocol, the group coaching program, on the 14th of August. So if anyone is interested in joining that, you can scan and look and read a little bit about the program. So thank you for listening, and see you next week.